When you think of pastors, you probably imagine them preaching from the pulpit, talking about faith, love, kindness, and helping the less fortunate. You might picture them leading prayers, organizing charity drives, and supporting their community. But what if I told you that some pastors are not just spiritual leaders? They're millionaires. Some of them even own private jets, live in gigantic mansions, and drive fancy cars that most people could only dream about. This might seem surprising, but it's the reality for several pastors around the world. These religious figures have built massive ministries that bring in huge amounts of money, sometimes leading to lifestyles that are more like those of celebrities or business moguls than traditional clergymen. In this story, we're going to explore how some pastors have become incredibly wealthy. We'll look at where their money comes from, how they spend it, and the controversies that surround their lavish lifestyles. We'll also dive into the teachings that many of these pastors use to justify their wealth, and we'll hear from critics who argue that this level of wealth goes against the core teachings of Christianity. So, let's dive in and discover the richest pastors in the world, starting with some surprising stories of faith and fortune. Pastor Chinoa Irene, from banker to millionaire. Pastor. Let's begin with Pastor Chinoa Irene, a name that might not be as well known as some of the other pastors on this list, but her story is just as remarkable. Pastor Irene hails from a small country in Africa called Zimbabwe. She wasn't always a pastor, though her early career was in banking. For over 10 years, she worked as a banker at Standard Bank of South Africa, one of the largest banks in the region. During her time as a banker, she gained a deep understanding of finance, wealth management, and how money flows through various sectors, including religious organizations. In 2001, Pastor Irene made a surprising career switch. She left her secure, well-paying job in banking and decided to become a pastor. She founded a ministry called Divine Truth World Restoration Services, and her life took a dramatic turn. Over the years, her ministry grew rapidly, attracting followers from all over South Africa and beyond. Today, Pastor Chinoa Irene is one of the most well-known pastors in South Africa, and her influence extends far beyond the pulpit. Her ministry even has its television channel on DSTV, a popular satellite service in Africa, which broadcasts her sermons and teachings to millions of viewers. But what's even more surprising than her rise to fame as a religious leader is her staggering wealth. Pastor Chinoa Irene has an estimated net worth of $42 million. That's right, $42 million. This enormous fortune places her among the richest pastors in the world, and it's a testament to how successful her ministry has become. Her wealth comes from several sources, including donations from her congregation, television appearances, and possibly even investments made during her banking days. Some people speculate that her time working as a banker gave her the financial insight and knowledge she needed to build a thriving ministry. After all, managing a large ministry is not just about preaching, it's also about handling money, organizing events, and making strategic decisions to grow the organization. Others wonder if Pastor Irene was inspired to join the ministry after seeing the wealth and success of other pastors. Perhaps she realized that faith could be a profitable business, especially in a world where people are looking for spiritual guidance and hope. Regardless of her motivations, Pastor Irene's success has been remarkable. But her wealth has also raised questions. Should a pastor be worth millions of dollars? Should religious leaders live in luxury while many of their followers struggle with poverty? These are questions that have sparked debate for years, and they continue to be relevant today as we look at other wealthy pastors around the world. Benny Hinn, the televangelist who became a millionaire. Next on our list is one of the most famous televangelists in the world, Benny Hinn. If you've ever flipped through religious channels on TV, you've probably seen Benny Hinn preaching to huge crowds, performing what he calls miracle healings, or asking people to donate to his ministry. Benny Hinn has been in the public eye for decades, and his global reach has helped him build a massive fortune. Born in Israel, Benny Hinn moved to the United States and became a well-known figure in the televangelism world. His ministry quickly grew, and soon he was reaching millions of people around the world through his TV broadcasts, public events, and books. Benny Hinn's sermons often focus on healing and miracles, and he is known for his large public events called Miracle Crusades, where people come to be healed of various illnesses and disabilities. But Benny Hinn is not just famous for his religious work, he's also famous for his wealth. Today, Benny Hinn has an estimated net worth of $45 million, making him one of the richest pastors in the world. His fortune comes from a variety of sources, including donations to his ministry, book sales, and his highly attended public appearances. Many of Benny Hinn's followers believe that he has a special gift for healing and that their donations will help spread his message to even more people. However, Benny Hinn's wealth has also attracted a lot of controversy. Critics argue that his lavish lifestyle is at odds with the teachings of Christianity, which often emphasize humility, modesty, and helping the poor. Benny Hinn is known to live a life of luxury, with multiple homes, private jets, and stays in expensive hotels. His ministry has also faced scrutiny over its financial practices. In 2007, Benny Hinn's ministry was one of 6 that was investigated by the U.S. Senate Finance Committee. The investigation, led by Senator Chuck Grassley, aimed to find out whether these ministries were using tax-exempt donations to fund extravagant lifestyles. While the investigation didn't result in any legal action against Benny Hinn, it did raise important questions about the financial transparency of his ministry. People wanted to know where their donations were going and whether they were being used for the intended purposes. This lack of transparency has continued to be a point of contention for many of Benny Hinn's critics. In addition to the controversy surrounding his finances, Benny Hinn has also faced allegations about the authenticity of the healings that take place at his events. Some people have questioned whether the healings are real or if they are staged to attract more attention and donations. Benny Hinn has always denied these accusations and has maintained that his ministry is focused on faith and healing. Interestingly, in recent years, Benny Hinn has expressed regret over some of his past teachings, particularly his focus on the prosperity gospel. This is a teaching that suggests that faith and donations to the ministry will lead to financial blessings for believers. Benny Hinn has publicly stated that he no longer supports this message and that he believes it was wrong to focus so much on money and wealth. This shift in his views has surprised many of his followers and has added another layer of complexity to his story. The prosperity gospel, a path to wealth. One of the key teachings that has allowed many pastors to accumulate wealth is the prosperity gospel. This belief system teaches that God rewards faith with material wealth and success. Essentially, the idea is that if you are faithful and if you donate generously to the church or ministry, God will bless you with financial prosperity. This teaching has become incredibly popular among some religious groups, particularly in the United States and parts of Africa. The prosperity gospel has been embraced by many televangelists and mega-church pastors, and it's a big reason why some of these pastors have become so wealthy. They encourage their followers to give money to the church, often promising that their donations will lead to financial blessings from God. In return, these pastors often live luxurious lifestyles that are funded by these donations. However, the prosperity gospel is not without its critics. Many people argue that it goes against the core teachings of Christianity, which emphasize humility, generosity, and caring for the poor. Jesus himself lived a simple life and taught his followers to give to those in need. Critics of the prosperity gospel say that it promotes greed and materialism, and that it takes advantage of vulnerable people who are looking for hope and financial relief. Despite these criticisms, the prosperity gospel continues to be popular, especially among televangelists and megachurch pastors. The promise of wealth and success is a powerful message, and for many people, it's a message of hope. But it also raises important questions about the role of money in religion and whether pastors should be using their platforms to amass personal wealth. Other wealthy pastors around the world. Benny Hinn and Pastor Chinua Irene are not the only pastors who have become incredibly wealthy. Several other religious leaders around the world have built massive fortunes through their ministries. Let's take a look at a few more of the richest pastors in the world. Kenneth Copeland. Kenneth Copeland is another well-known televangelist who has made a fortune through his ministry. Based in Texas, Copeland is the founder of Kenneth Copeland Ministries, and he has been preaching for over 50 years. Like Benny Hinn, Kenneth Copeland is a strong believer in the prosperity gospel, and he encourages his followers to give generously to his ministry. Copeland's ministry reaches millions of people through television broadcasts, books, and public appearances. He is known for his energetic preaching style and his focus on financial blessings. Today, Kenneth Copeland is worth an estimated $300 million, making him one of the richest pastors in the world. Copeland's wealth has attracted a lot of attention, particularly because of his lavish lifestyle. He owns a private jet, several luxury homes, and a ranch in Texas. Critics have questioned whether it's appropriate for a pastor to live such an extravagant life, especially when many of his followers are struggling financially. David Oyedepo. David Oyedepo is another pastor who has built an enormous fortune through his ministry. Based in Nigeria, Oyedepo founded Living Faith Church worldwide, also known as Winners Chapel. His ministry is one of the largest in Africa, and it has branches worldwide. Oyedepo is known for his powerful sermons and his focus on faith and prosperity. Today, David Oyedepo is worth an estimated $150 million, making him one of the wealthiest pastors in the world. His wealth comes from various sources, including his church, book sales, and investments. Like many other wealthy pastors, Oyedepo lives a luxurious lifestyle, with private jets, mansions, and a fleet of cars. However, Oyedepo's wealth has also sparked controversy. Some people argue that his focus on wealth and prosperity is at odds with the teachings of Christianity. Others question whether his ministry is doing enough to help the poor and disadvantaged in Nigeria, a country that has one of the highest poverty rates in the world.